Here with your local news for September 7th for KMRS, I'm Matt Privratsky. An accident in rural Glenwood had a fatal ending last week. Emergency responders were called in the early afternoon last Wednesday to a farm near Glenwood. Authorities were hesitant to give details about the incident except that John Lanigan, age 58, could not be saved and passed away. Responding to the call were the Villard and Glenwood Fire Departments, Glacial Ridge Ambulance, the Pope County Sheriff's Department, and the State Patrol. What turned out to be a simple clicking sound evacuated the Grandview apartments on Wednesday of this week. A woman had turned her igniter on to cook some food on her stove, but the click of the igniter didn't turn off. The continuous clicking usually means gas is leaking out of the stove to be lit, so as a precaution the building was evacuated around 10 p.m. It turns out there was no gas leak and no immediate danger. Morris Fire Chief Doug Stork said about the situation, "We don't take any chances with gas leaks." Melanie Fohl, director of Grandview Apartments, echoed that sentiment by stating they usually would rather be safe than sorry. Residents were let back into the building after a quick inspection, after spending less than an hour outside. Minnesota tourism has seen a modest increase for the second summer in a row. A survey taken by Explore Minnesota Tourism found that 70% of respondents were seeing occupancy at or above last year's numbers. A study by Smith Travel Research from earlier this year also found that hotel room demands were up 5% and room revenues were up 9%. Still, almost a third of respondents said their occupancy was down this summer compared to last. Morris is trying to increase their share of the tourism and convention market by hiring HBH Consulting to help the city develop a marketing strategy. Paul Hendricks, interim director of the Morris Chamber of Commerce, thinks Morris could work to host destination events similar to the Renaissance Festival in Shakopee. That kind of business could help boost the economy, says Hendricks. And while many worry that the slow economic recovery could hamper growth in tourism numbers, almost 75% of respondents expect business this fall to be the same or better than last year. Across the state, tourism is an $11 billion industry. A Morris professor has been awarded a competitive grant. Ted Papenfuss, associate professor of chemistry at the University of Minnesota Morris, is part of a group of researchers that received a National Science Foundation award of over $200,000. With this award, Papenfuss and colleagues from the College of St. Catherine, Carleton College, the College of St. Benedict, and St. John's University will acquire a benchtop X-ray diffractometer for a regional molecular structure facility. An X-ray diffractometer allows accurate and precise measurements of the full three-dimensional structure of a molecule, Papenfuss explains. His first new project with his students will be making new materials for organic solar cells to determine if they are good candidates for solar energy conversion. Papenfuss attained a Bachelor of Arts in Chemistry from St. John's University and earned a doctorate in Inorganic Chemistry from the University of Minnesota. His teaching and research focus is on organic materials and inorganic chemistry. Nearly 500 people were in attendance to see a night full of music. Adair, Della, and friends performed music from the 30s, 40s, 50s, and more while raising money for local art scholarships last night. The event had started as a way to showcase the two piano duets that Adair arranged for Della and herself, and as a way to bring in a larger audience, Adair asked friends to perform as well, and the event was born. 7 years later, the event brought in an audience almost any local organizer would envy. With audience participation, choreography, and musical instruments as unique as the accordion, the event had something for everyone. The applause after each number clearly showed the appreciation the audience had for the performers, which were clearly worth the price of admission, especially since a $6 per person cost to attend helped raise money for the Morris Area Arts Boosters Scholarship. The scholarship encourages students to continue their involvement in music as they attend college, and as Adair and Della will proudly tell anyone they speak to, music can and should be a lifelong activity. U.S. Senator Al Franken has announced a proposal to eliminate a costly federal rule forcing Minnesota communities to replace all road signs by 2018. He says eliminating this rule will remove a looming financial burden on cash-strapped Minnesota communities. Franken says those unfunded mandates would have forced local communities to pay tens of millions of dollars at a time when they can least afford it. The rule being reconsidered would cost Minnesota between $55 and $76 million, according to the Minnesota Department of Transportation. It would have required all road signs to use new, expensive technology and include standardized lettering. Deer hunters who use a firearm or muzzleloader in a lottery area and want to harvest an antlerless deer must apply for an either-sex permit by the Thursday, September 8th deadline. Deadlines for firearm and muzzleloader special hunts are also September 8th. Although a hunter can be selected for both permits, successful applicants still can only take one deer. The change for 2011 is that the either-sex permit will be valid for both the firearm and muzzleloader season. However, a hunter must have a valid license for that season, and the bag limit remains 1 deer per year. In lottery deer areas, firearms and muzzleloader hunters can only harvest a buck unless they apply for and receive an either-sex permit, which allows them to harvest an antlerless deer. And that's been your KMRS local news for September 2nd. I'm Matt Privratsky.